Hi, so today I wanted to show you a quick little tutorial on how to make your own coconut water kefir at home. Before you get started, you're going to want to make sure that you have all the supplies that you need, and I will post links in the descriptions for the items that I am using specifically. You don't have to use the same exact ones. So you're going to want to get some glass jars to store your coconut water kefir in the refrigerator once it is finished, and also one to ferment the kefir grains as you're making the coconut water kefir. So I have two jars here because I'm going to show you both things. You're also going to want to get a plastic nylon mesh strainer. So this is not a metal strainer. As you can see, this is plastic. You do not want your kefir grains to touch any metal whatsoever. So do not use a regular stainless steel or metal-based strainer. Buy one of these fancy nylon mesh ones. And again, I'll put a link in the description to the one that I'm using. You are going to want to get some sugar, preferably organic light brown sugar. Molasses can also be helpful in helping your kefir grains grow, but when you use light brown sugar, there is already molasses in it, so it is going to help your kefir grains to populate and grow really big and multiply, which is what you want. You want healthy grains. And also you can use baking soda. Adding a little bit of baking soda also helps keep your grains healthy, happy, thriving, and multiplying. I also have some plastic mason jar lids. So this is when the coconut water kefir is finished fermenting and I store it in the refrigerator. I'm going to put one of these on it. That way it doesn't touch any metal. And these fit perfectly for the jars. So they're great for storing. And then also, if you have it available to you, you're going to want to use young coconuts, fresh coconuts. This is going to give the most benefit, as coconuts actually have almost like a microbiome of their own. You're going to get the most benefit from using a fresh coconut versus the processed or boxed, canned coconut water. However, if you don't have fresh coconuts as an option, of course, this is okay to use. This is better, but this is fine. And preferably you want to get young coconuts because young coconuts have less meat, more water, so you're going to get more water from each coconut, whereas a mature coconut, the brown ones, they have more meat and less water. So you can use those. They're fine. They work great, but you will have to go through much more coconuts to get the amount of water that you'll need. So when your grains arrive, they're going to come in a little plastic container like this. You really only need a small amount because they will start to grow and multiply, and you're going to end up with a lot of kefir grains, more than you'll know what to do with. So a 1/4 cup is sufficient. So when your grains arrive, if you have coconuts ready to go or you have coconut water ready to go, then you should immediately make your first batch. So to do that, oops. Oh, also I forgot to mention, I got one of these little coconut cutting tools. You can also use like a screwdriver and a hammer, any way that you can get a hole into the coconuts to be able to drain the water out of it will work. I like this one. I find it really helpful. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the coconut, and I'm just going to basically cut a hole in it so I can drain the water into my jar. So I'm going to take my mason jar and drain my fresh young coconut into the jar. You don't want to fill the jar all the way to the top. You want to leave a little space, a little room in case there's bubbling or expansion. So it will, if you're using a 32-ounce jar like I am with about a 1/4 cup of grains, you would probably need around 2 to 3 young coconuts to fill it completely. This one actually had quite a bit of water in it. So this is 1 coconut. So what I'm going to do when I'm finished is I'm going to open 1 more and I'm going to fill it to like about right here. And then take my grains. You can see they're nice, healthy kefir grains. And I'm just going to simply dump them in the jar, right into the coconut water. Look how easy that was. That's it. That's all you have to do to start your coconut water kefir. Super simple. So like I mentioned before, you don't want any metal to touch the kefir grain. So while it is sitting out on the counter fermenting, you can just simply put a paper towel right on top of the jar. And then actually what I found to be kind of helpful in keeping the paper towel on top was saving the metal ring from the lid and just popping that on. This will now sit on my counter for about 24 to 48 hours. It depends on how cold or warm you keep your house. Ideally, around 70 degrees would be perfect, and that would take about anywhere from 24 to 36 hours to ferment. If your house is a little bit warmer, you can. It will ferment faster. If it's a little bit cooler, it's going to take a little bit longer, but 24 to 48 hours is around the time that it takes. You'll know it's finished when it has almost like a strong soury vinegar scent to it. Also when it's no longer sweet and when it's very kind of acidic tasting or vinegary tasting, that's how you'll know that it's finished. Or if there's like little bubbles forming at the top, or if some of the kefir grains are floating to the top. So when it's ready, take your little cap off your top. You're going to take your strainer and you're going to, what I like to do is put another jar underneath and drain the coconut water through the strainer, and you'll have your liquid then that's ready to consume in this jar. So let's just pretend this is my finished coconut water kefir in here. You're going to then put your plastic top on and store it in the fridge, and it's ready to use and consume. So after that, after you strain the coconut kefir water through the strainer, you're left then with the grains. So the grains need to be rinsed with filtered water only. Do not use tap water. So then you're going to fill the jar with filtered water. Let me go ahead and do that now. And then you're going to empty your grains that you have rinsed off, and you're going to dump them right into that jar of water. And so this is what you're going to do in between batches. So once you finish one batch, you need to feed your kefir grains. These are live cultures. They need to be treated almost like plant. They need nutrition. They need to grow and thrive to give you the maximum benefits that they have to offer. So what kefir grains need to grow and feed off of is the light brown sugar. So I have about a 1/4 cup of grains in here. I have water filled about 2/3 of the way to the top of the jar. So I'm going to use a measuring spoon and scoop 2 heaping tablespoons of the organic brown sugar right into the jar of filtered water and my coconut kefir grains. And I'm going to just keep this on my countertop for a few days so that my kefir grains can feed off of the sugar and grow, and then I can rinse them out, same exact way, pour it through the strainer. Now, when you are growing your grains with sugar and water, it's going to create almost like a kefir soda, and you can drink that. It is beneficial. However, I recommend for the parents to drink this and not for the children, because it could have a little bit of a higher alcohol content, as it is feeding off of sugar and fermenting. Or you can just dump it if you don't want to drink it. So so it's going to look like this. I got my grains, my water, and my light brown sugar in there. I'm going to put a paper towel on top and store it on the countertop so I can reuse it in a few days. Also, when your grains arrive, if you are not ready to start making your coconut water kefir immediately, if you don't have your coconuts and your other supplies ready, what you can do is you can start off by doing a sugar water soak initially. So once you receive the grains in in the little container, dump them right into the filtered water, add your a few tablespoons of the brown sugar, let it sit for a few days until you're ready to use it. I actually let mine sit on the counter for about a week before I was able to get down to the store and get my young coconuts to make the coconut water kefir. And I'll show you, they grew quite big. And this started off with just a little amount, like I showed you in the beginning of the video. This was just a tiny amount of kefir grains. And now look, they're just really thriving. They're big, healthy. So when I'm ready to use these, I will rinse them with filtered water out of the water that they're in now. And I will just start the process over again, opening a coconut, draining it, and putting the grains into the coconut water, letting it ferment for 24 to 48 hours. And then I will store that and use it. And the next batch, I will do a sugar water soak to grow them and feed them again. So it's just this ongoing cycle. It seems a little bit intimidating and scary at first, but I promise you, once you get the hang of it, it's the simplest thing that you could do. So easy, so beneficial for your child. Trying to think if there was any other questions that I saw people asking. Oh, baking soda. So you're probably wondering why I mentioned baking soda in the beginning of the video. So if your kefir grains are not growing as much as you'd like, or you're just feeling like they're not growing at all, or they're depleting, you can add baking soda to your sugar water soak, as the baking soda will provide more nutrients for them to feed off of. That's optional. You don't have to use it. I personally actually have not needed to use the baking soda. As you can see, my grains are doing just fine in sugar and water. So I did finish making one batch already. So I'll show you kind of what that liquid looks like, so you'll have something to compare to. Now there's not much water left in this one because we have been giving it, but this is what a finished batch, kind of a cloudy water. So it's not super thick, it's very liquidy, like water, but almost kind of looks like lemonade. So I added monk fruit sweetener. It's a naturally derived sugar. It's not going to raise blood glucose levels. And then I used these flavor enhancers to kind of give a little bit of flavor, and the flavor enhancers have stevia in it. So it's sugar-free. You're not feeding the candida in the gut, but it just kind of helps mask the flavor and makes it a little more easier to consume for children.